All right, here we go. We are talking about Mexican and American conflicts between the years of about 1820 and 1850. We use the house analogy in class because we are talking about a neighborhood that is in the Americas. These houses were built right around the same time, and hopefully you understand that it takes maybe a short while to build a house, but a long time to build a home. The United States, established 1776, took them about 10 years to finally establish a good constitution, okay, with the 1787 constitution we follow today. And Mexico established 1810. We're going to talk about how these two share a past of wanting to establish a republic government and how sometimes that doesn't actually work out. First off, we're going to talk about the United States. In the United States growth, slavery has always been an issue. And the United States was very focused on maintaining a balance of slave and free. This balance of slave and free would ensure that there was less conflict in Congress, as well as conflict that would eventually grow into war. You guys know, hopefully, that they can't forestall that conflict too long because the Civil War eventually does happen. But we're going to talk now about Texas. The Texans were a group of people that wanted to have slaves, but the United States said, we are not able to maintain this balance, so you guys need to leave. Texans were tasked with leaving the United States, kind of like older siblings might leave the house when they are not willing to follow mom's rules. So, as Texas leaves the United States, they are bringing with them a number of things that they picked up from while in home. Mainly, a history of liberty. This liberty may include the willingness and the desire to choose how your own region defines laws, popular sovereignty. They also bring the exact opposite of liberty, slavery. And these Texans are in need of a home. Lucky for Texans, though, during this time, Mexico, established 1810, has room in the attic for rent. Here is the rental agreement. In the history of Mexico, they did have the encomienda system under the Spanish Empire before there was the revolution and the independence. And the encomienda system had many Native American tribes actually placed under slavery. So when Mexico was established, number one rule, formerly slave, absolutely no slavery ever again. By the way, how was Mexico to know that Texas had slavery? I missed an arm there. Had slavery hidden away in their suitcase. Another thing, and anytime you quote unquote rent in a country, you must pay taxes. And this isn't a historically correct with definable documents overview of Mexican-American conflict. This is just a brief analogy of how things went down. So, room for rent in the attic. And this is an older house with a swing down door, kind of cool. Maybe you've seen one in Toy Story. This is going to be Texas for a number of years. Between about the years of 1820 to about 1835, things are going okay for Texas. They agree to pay their rent. And Mexico doesn't know that they have hidden away slavery in their room. During this course of time, Mexico is trying to establish a good government. And so in establishing a good government, sometimes it doesn't always work out the first time. There is going to be Santa Anna, who is the leader of the leader of Mexico for a number of years for multiple times. And Santa Anna was kind of like Napoleon, who we talked about earlier. Santa Anna was a general turned dictator who had his eye on becoming emperor of the West. Every time he would hand over the keys of government back to the Mexican governments, they may have screwed it up, and Santa Anna had to take it back. But during this course of history, he has aspirations to conquer. This goes directly against what the United States had declared in the Monroe Doctrine of contemplating having an empire or a military might to check against empires, as well as the willingness to protect democracy and republican forms of government in the West. Santa Anna saying that he would be emperor of the West, kind of scary. So we get to about 1835, and Texas declares independence from Mexico. They close the trap door and say, we are no longer a part of Mexico, we are our own house. They might have put a ladder up here in order to get there in the house analogy, but Texas closes off their routes to Mexico. Okay? So this is going to thoroughly anger Santa Anna, who's in charge of the government, and this is when Texans say that they will have slaves and no longer pay taxes. Santa Anna, with little to do, declares that he will invade Texas and force them out. This is a time when military technology is in a rapid period of growth, and so Santa Anna is the man for the job to force them out. He is going to be successful in forcing out many of the Texans from the Texas territory, but this is going to have an effect after the Alamo. And there are going to be some survivors, and those survivors are going to run back to the United States, and begin a rallying cry of remember the Alamo. Okay? And for a number of years, remember the Alamo is going to be a reason for the United States to help out Texas to gain its independence, and also for the United States to contemplate a war with Mexico. So, first things first, we need to talk about annexation of Texas. In the easiest way to explain it, the United States goes mama bear. They go Karen against Mexico and threaten war. Mexico is still growing at this time. It is not able to defend itself on multiple fronts or pay for a costly war. Mama Bear Karen, United States, essentially swipes Mexico, or swipes Texas from Mexico in this. They threaten with annexation, and it works. This is essentially like building a bridge between Mexico and Texas, including Texas in the United States beginning about 1845. A number of years pass, and they have a new president named James Polk. And James Polk, true to his name, is eager to add territory to the United States like the presidents before him. James Polk understands that Mexico has, right next to Texas, many resources, including gold, silver, and, most important thing, in a dry environment, water. There is a contested boundary during this time where Mexico claims that the Northern River is the boundary, and the United States claims that the Rio Grande River or Rio Grande River is the boundary. And if either portion sends an army against those rivers, then war would be declared. James Polk. Quote unquote pokes Mexico into war by using the Monroe Doctrine and the fact that Santa Anna has aspirations of conquering the West. He is able to poke Mexico into war, and this is a very quick war for the United States. They have superior navy that they established during the War of 1812, and these navy ships had many guns, allowing a quick invasion of Mexico and a quick land invasion for American troops that are developing training that will be used during the American Civil War. They invade Mexico City, and is a quick forced cession for the United States. The United States gains the following states with access to gold, silver, and water. This is essentially taking another floor of Mexico's land. We're not going to get into stolen land theory right now. So they invade Mexico, and it is added to the United States, Utah, California, Nevada, parts of Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, as well as like some parts of Wyoming and then like a little bit of Oregon and more parts of Texas. But these are added through cession to the United States. All right. If there are any questions, as always, ask. But we'll see you. Have a good